up in that ring, your reputation's on the line. All hip hop, all the time.
Grindtime getting started was pretty much the perfect time because you had, at that point, what was like the peak of hunger in the scene and awareness, because it was when YouTube was just getting off the ground. So now people had consistent access to footage, and it was when the second WRC had just popped off, which had like a nice buzz going for it. And 2008 was also the last ever Scribble Jam, which we didn't know at the time, but that like perfectly like basically sets a layup to transition into the written format once the biggest freestyle battles that are being held yearly are no longer being held, but people still want like an outlet to perform on. So Grindtime's timing was perfect, and the uprise, or the rising of, obviously, like to me just made a ton of sense because you had so many people that were interested and hungry at the time, and they were the outlet providing like pretty much all of the content, especially once they had, you know, divisions covering the entire country. You were able to get content almost every day of the week. A battle from somewhere was coming out. Even if it wasn't the dopest, still something was coming out. So there was all kinds of fresh stuff. It obviously hadn't been beaten to death at that point. It was still something fresh that people like looked forward to watching. Went strong for several years for sure, and then ultimately, I guess what led to the downfall was probably the fallout of Grizzlemania 2, where Cap put in, you know, a large portion of money to fund basically, debatably the best Grindtime event ever. Without a doubt, like top 3. It's up there with any of the Battle of the Bay events if people want to like make a case for Battle of the Bay 5, which was a huge, those two, it's probably Battle of the Bay 5, Grizzle 2, and like MOB are like the biggest Grindtime events of all time. And all Cap really wanted was not even to recoup his entire investment. He just wanted a little kickback from, you know, the next check, and there was like a disagreement with that, which then led to him taking the footage and being like, nah, I'm gonna put this on whatever channel I want because the footage is mine, and I threw the event. He put it on Andy Milanakis' channel, where the battle still did pretty well on because Andy has a huge following on his own. It's just not a battle audience, but like the core battle heads knew where to go and find it. Cap promoted it right. In the process of that, I think Cap and Lush were super tight at the time. I believe even in a crew. They were in the Quina Muerte, I think, at the time, which then is going to lead to a further divide among Grindtime. I don't know. I think ultimately that's where the fallout began. And then you started to see divisions, I guess, get a little lazier with their events because they weren't getting, I guess, backing that they either felt like they deserved financially or that they probably should have gotten if they wanted to throw real events. But it just wasn't, you know, they weren't being backed properly. Then Grindtime West had like a semi-collapse. When Lush decided to sort of fall back and just be CEO, I guess more in charge of the overall operation of things, he decided to put the West Coast division first in charge. He decided to put it in the hands of Absurd at first, which wasn't necessarily the best move going forward. And that sort of, you know, people weren't really on board with that. There was some shaky business that was taking place. You know, I don't know exactly what happened. I never got shorted, so I can't, you know, I'm not going to speak on other people's money, but I heard some things. And then Caddy Ron like took over for a minute. And Caddy Ron is actually the dude who booked me and Philly Swain on one day's notice, and everything was straight. Like, we took care of it well, but it was Caddy Ron who admittedly, like, down the road ended up just taking event money to like use on dope and whatnot. Like, he, you know, it's Caddy, and he's a shameless enough individual to admit what he did and laugh about it in hindsight. And that's all you can really do, you know what I'm saying? But those events definitely led to a huge lack of faith, especially from the West Coast, which at the time was by far the deepest division in Grindtime. Like, we had the deepest talent pool, no question. And when you have that deep of a talent pool of people with no faith in, you know, events being thrown successfully, people getting paid on time or at all, anything being like organized or functional, that had a large part to do with like leading, you know, to the downfall of it. At that point, I want to say the only leg that Grindtime was even standing on was like Grindtime East, where Penn was still killing it. He was still definitely throwing successful events. Penn and PH, even though PH had started like battling again at that point, he was the original like East Coast president who, you know, got it off the ground. And then Penn took over from there once PH wanted to start battling more.
What happened to your teeth? Have y'all niggas seen this shit? Yeah. It looks like somebody took a hammer to his shit. Either that or you had a sandwich made of bricks. Plus you got one on top of the other, looking like Legos in this bitch. I guess Meek Mills had it right.
We rockin' to this shit.
My main bitch a revolver. You should fear bait. Real niggas will not listen to shit this queer say. But you want to be cool, go back to school, you know, talk that hearsay. Then I'm not your dad, but it's my job to pop in front of your class. That's career day.